Okay, okay, as we start part 2 of the history, we want to look now at one of the most fascinating emperors in Roman history, and his name is Constantine. So following the Claudian emperors and some other emperors, Trajan and Diocletian, we now come to Constantine. And Constantine is an interesting figure because there's a great shift in the Roman Empire that happens during his reign. He had a struggle to become emperor and had to fight another person who wanted to come to the Roman throne, so to speak. And in a battle that he fought with this person, before the battle actually started, the night before, he saw in a dream a vision. And in this vision, he saw a cross. And the cross appeared, and he saw the words, "Conquer by this. Conquer by this." And so he was to conquer by this particular sign. And of course he saw this cross, and he took that to heart. His mother was a Christian. He had heard things about Christianity. He had heard things about the gospel. And he was successful, and he gave credit to his victory to Jesus, and just claimed that this was, this sign, and Jesus's blessing went with him. So as emperor, he reunited the Roman Empire. He reunited the east and the western part of the Roman Empire. So remember how Diocletian had separated the empire into east and west. Now he reunites the empire. And this is a big event in Roman history. Another thing that he did that's very noted is that he claimed to be a follower of Christ, and so he claimed to be a Christian. So he's the first emperor who claimed to be a believer. And there's some people who wonder if that was really true. So they say, well, he had mixed motives. He may have done this so that he could get support from the Christians, or that he would be better believed, or whatever. And I personally think he knew the Lord. I think there's some evidences for that. And so he issued an edict, which is just a statement, and they call this statement the Edict of Milan. Very famous statement. It was issued in 313 AD, and it basically was a policy of toleration toward any religion. And particularly made Christianity the official religion. So there was a toleration, and so less persecution, and Christianity became the official Roman religion. So this is huge. There's no more persecution of the Christians. There's no more gladiator games. There's no more bloodshed in the big arena there in Rome. Now, the next important figure is Theodosius. And Theodosius the First is a key emperor. He ruled in 395 AD, and some of you are thinking, okay, wait a minute now, Rome falls in 476 AD. So yeah, this is toward the end of the empire, and Theodosius was actually pretty stable. He brought a lot of stability to the empire, and he divided the empire again. And this time he did it permanently. He made a Western Roman Empire, and he assigned the capital to Rome. And that was usually a pretty solid reason, because Rome was this old city, and it was the capital as the empire grew. And then he had the Eastern Empire, and he assigned the capital would be in Constantinople, which was the city that Constantine had named it after himself. And one of the things that Theodosius did is that he re-emphasized that Christianity was the official religion of Rome. So the entire empire now was required to recognize the official religion of the empire, Christianity. So this is a very important date that Theodosius assigns and makes that move. Now, one of the results of Christianity being the official religion is that this now provides a freedom from persecution to everyone. So there's great freedom, very little persecution. And the negative of this, it was that it begins to distort or to make changes in Christianity. So, for instance, it now, instead of costing you something where you're running into a lot of negative publicity and you're being persecuted, to be a Christian now, it's very easy to be a Christian. It's easy to follow Christ, and there's very little that a person has to lose. So, some people say they're Christians for political gain, just for political gain. And so they're using Christianity to their own advantage. And another problem is that often now Christianity can be controlled by the emperor, because it's the official religion. Guess what? The emperor sort of is the head of the church in that regard, So there's a distortion. About the same time, German tribes. You remember we talked about in Germania, that area where these tribes are, these German tribes are becoming more and more a danger to the empire. I'm just going to put a big E for empire, kind of my abbreviation. And they pose a danger because they are pushing south. So they're pushing south across the border of the empire. So this boundary has been strengthened with Roman troops, but now these tribes are becoming bigger and bigger and bigger pushes. We're not totally sure why they were doing that. Some historians have said, well, they were wanting the wealth and the riches of Rome. And so, well, maybe. Some historians have indicated that the climate was undergoing a cooling spell, and so it was freezing up in Germany. And they were pushing south to get into those warmer climates around Italy and Greece. Well, we really don't know all the reasons. There's another theory that there were tribes way over in Russia pushing south, and they pushed south onto the Germans, and now the Germans are being pushed and are trying to move into the Roman Empire. Well, we don't understand all the reasons, but there was a number of tribes. One was the Ostrogoths. You want to write that down. Another tribe, the Visigoths. Another tribe, the Vandals. Vandals were noted for their great destruction. We get the word vandalism today from this tribe of Vandals. The Franks, these tribes settled in what is today France. And another group that you've probably heard, the Angles and the Saxons. These are all from Germany, so these are all German tribes. And they're starting to move south, or they're moving west, and they begin to rise in rebellion to the empire and to the troops of the Roman legions. And they begin to, even as they're wanting to come into the Roman Empire, a lot of them volunteer. They volunteer to serve in the Roman army. And so they're looking forward to serving in the Roman army. And of course, if they serve there, they have a solid career. Roman army could keep you for 20 years in good employment with good food and a steady job. And then oftentimes the troops were given land when they retired. So this would be a way of kind of gaining a pension, an estate, not an estate, but a piece of land that you could keep and pass down through your family. And so what happens is, because they're eager to serve, and because the Romans are becoming lazier, because they've become rich and wealthy and with lots of slaves, they comprise a major part of the military. And that's kind of dangerous when the German tribes that you're trying to keep out of your empire, now a number of them have joined up as volunteers, and they're the major part of your army. Okay? What does that tell you? Well, they may not be willing to fight against the German tribes very well, since those are their people. But the Romans still enlisted them, because the Romans now, the average Roman was wealthy and had slaves, and because they had slaves doing the work for them, there was a high degree of being lazy, a high degree of laxness and laziness. So this was a real concern in the Roman Empire. So the tribes come in to the empire, and there's a number of invasions, and the Romans push them back out, but the tribes come back in again, And so this fall of the Roman Empire looks like it just might happen. There's a number of invasions. Then finally, in 476 AD, 476, the Romans can't push them out any further. The Romans sort of give up. And so the empire falls. Now, that's really talking about the Western Empire. The Western, and I think I'm going to write that here, the Western Empire falls. Of course, that's having Rome, the capital. So Rome falls. But the Eastern Empire continues on. The Eastern Empire holds out against the barbarians, and it holds all the way to the 1400s. So it's actually 1450 is when that Eastern Empire falls to the barbarians. So it took them much longer. So a lot of people, as they think of the Roman Empire and its fall, will say that Rome really fell from the inside. It had become corrupt, it had become lazy. They had lots of slaves, they had lots of wealth, and so their inside or their internal character really suffered. It was sort of like if you had you are becoming accustomed to getting anything you want. And so you can get anything you want, and you can get any food, any dessert, any kind of thing you want, and you don't have to really work for it. Well, the result is you're going to become rather lazy over time. And so the culture that is now fostering this in the Roman culture fosters laziness. You get what you want, whether you do your work or not, And that's always been a danger, isn't it? It's a danger with us today. We could think that, hey, I don't have to do any work. I just deserve getting payments. My parents will take care of me. The government will take care of me. I deserve a job. Well, see, that's a dangerous line of thinking, because we need to realize that these things are blessings that God gives, and we're to be a good steward of them. And so if we're thinking, oh boy, God gave me this, I want to be a good steward of it because I love God, I thank Him for how He's blessed, I believe in Him, well then I'm going to treat it very carefully. I'm going to watch what I do. I'm going to be careful how I use these blessings. So the culture in Rome is actually fostering laziness, the idea that, we I deserve what I have here, and I deserve the best. It becomes very focused on self. And we call that, it's selfish. We can have that same problem today. We can be focused on that and not be a good steward. So just looking at myself, or I can look outward. I can see, how can I be a blessing to others? So I'm going to put down the other opposite of this is to be a blessing to others, to look to serve. So selfish versus service. And the culture really had shifted. Slave labor was the main way things got done. The barbarians were invited to work and to fight in the army. And so you see how Rome kind of corrupted itself within. So next week we'll talk a little bit more about this fall of the Roman Empire, but you can see how important your heart is, how important it is to serve God and to have a heart that is appreciative and has gratitude. If we're always grateful for the things that God has given, I want to also say that we're serving God. If you truly are grateful, you want to know Him better. And of course, What did Jesus say? He said, the greatest of among you would be the servant of all. So to serve rather than be served. To be selfless rather than to be selfish. So we see that same principle. And that makes sense because the Bible's true and the principles of God's Word are as true today as they were back with the Romans. God bless you.